I'm Jeff Leisawitz. I'm here with brownpapertickets.com. I am also the author of Not Effing Around, the No Bullshit Guide to Getting Your Creative Dreams Off the Ground. I love creative people. I love the healers and the nerds and the everybody. So Dr. Virginia, hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's good. It's good. It's gorgeous outside.
It is. All right. So tell me, who are you? What do you do? What's your thing?
All right. So I'm a naturopathic doctor. I actually run a primary care practice in South Lake Union, and I decided to do something strange when I got out of med school and decided that I wanted to work with the nerdy, geeky, gamer, cosplay, convention-going crowd. Most of them don't see doctors, and when they do, they don't tell them everything that's going on out of fear of judgment. I know this from personal experience. I'm personally a gigantic nerd, so I made this amazingly wonderful, positive space for people to come and get help, get health advice, do their physicals, all of the, nitty gritty, fun doctor stuff. And then we have fun while we're doing it.
Good. So
It's true. It's true.
So how's that going? I mean, to create a space like that sounds totally unique, really, to me.
It's an interesting challenge. I would say that there's not a space like it in the country that I could find. Definitely did some research trying to figure that out, and there's nothing out there like it. So we took the basic clinic scenario and added fun. So I don't have your standard clinic decorations. I have Doctor Who posters, and I have Daleks, and I have some Star Wars books, and a couple of, all sorts of really interesting fandom pieces. And I go and I speak at conventions, and that's where I kind of target my patient base, and I do some mild, little advertising here and there in The Stranger, but not any of your conventional medical directions for any of that stuff.
Sounds like you're doing it your way.
Of course. There's no other way to do it. There's no book for this. There's no, roadmap. I wish there was, but there isn't. And so you gotta make it up as you go.
I know somebody could write that roadmap.
Yeah, right?
You?
Yeah, I gotta have 2 more minutes worth of free time.
Okay.
Just 2 more.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So what do you love about what you do?
My patients, I know that sounds super cheesy. They're so funny. I love being able to have them come in and actually feel safe. I had a patient come in who is very obese, and she's very sick, and she's been sick for her whole life, and nobody wanted to really listen. And she sat down and we did some stuff, and she's losing weight for the first time in her entire life. But what was really awesome is we got down to the end of the visit, the very first visit, and she was like, "You didn't ask me how much I weigh." And I said, "No, because I don't care." "What do you mean you don't care? Is that relevant to what we're discussing right now? The exact poundage?" "No." "Well, then let's not talk about that. When it becomes relevant, we'll discuss it." And she actually started to cry.
Wow.
Because nobody had ever given her that space to talk about all of her other health issues and address what was really bothering her and not focus on her weight. Yeah. And I have patients like that for every different diagnosis you can have out there. So I love them because they're awesome. And they teach me every day.
Yeah.
Because they're all people. They're all really fascinating individual people, but they're all people. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's great.
That's my favorite part.
That's fantastic. Wow. So it sounds like the practice is doing pretty well, yeah?
We just hit 2 years at the beginning of this month.
Great.
Think about that for a minute. I'm like, yes, it is September. We just hit 2 years at the beginning of this month. It's growing. It's not as rapid as everyone would love it to take off overnight, but it's growing. And it's consistent, so that's really important.
That's great. So what so far have you learned from your successes here as being an entrepreneur and a doctor?
Just because nobody else has done it doesn't mean it can't be done. It's amazing to me how many people said, "This is what we're doing. This is how I'm doing it. These are the people I want to talk to and treat." And everybody looked at me and said, "I don't even know what those people, who those people are. How would you find them? Those people don't need health care." And they're all wrong. And you just have to go and do it. And I'm not always perfect. I don't always get it right. but then I get back up and I try it again. Slightly different angle. But
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done.
Well, no, but people seem to think that that's how that works, and I'm not sure why, but that's like their thought process is.
Have you always been like this?
Maybe. I don't think I've ever really stopped to think about it. Probably. Yeah, probably.
Have you always forged your own path?
For the most part. I do believe I'm on career number 3, and I'm not out of my 30s yet. So yeah.
What was career number 1 and 2? I just have to know.
So career number 1 was actually I was a graphic designer, graphic artist and a photographer for about 6 years. I did a lot of weddings. I'm not ever doing that again. And then I was a massage therapist for probably 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been a physician for about 4.
Great.
Yeah. No need to sit still.
Mm-hmm.
No need for that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So your practice is moving.
Mm-hmm.
Some would, and maybe you would, consider it successful at this point.
Mm-hmm.
How do you define success?
Gosh, that's always the best question ever. How do I define success? It's actually more about how I feel about my space and less about all the external markers. Don't get me wrong. Paying my rent and paying my bills and having money to pay myself is all really wonderful and helpful. But it's really more about feeling quiet and safe and happy with my space and what I'm doing and how I'm making it happen. That like low level of managed chaos, being able to actually manage the chaos and not feel like buried under it, I think is actually one of the bigger markers of success, because I feel like that means you've actually got your hands on it and you know where you're going next, even if it's not there yet. So
Yeah,
yeah,
cool. So when you set out to do something like start this practice, do you have any strategies that you use to complete your goals? Are you accountable to people? Do you make lists? Do you how do you do it?
Oh, the lists. Make a lot of lists. I'm accountable to other people. Honestly, gosh, this is so bad. People are gonna laugh, but I'm actually slightly chaotic about this. So I've always loved the concept of a mind map on paper, but I never seem to get mine out of my head and onto paper. So I always have this really, like, the central idea of starting the practice was definitely there. And then I just kind of was like, okay, well, we're just going to go, we need a space, we need this, we need that, we need this. And I just started doing it. So I kind of have a mental map in my head, and I have like lots of little lists, but I don't actually have the super pretty drawn out mental map that a lot of people do. It just doesn't seem to work that way for me, but I do have one in my head. So I have a really good idea of where we're going to be in about, 5 years from now and all of that stuff.
So it works.
Oh, it does. It definitely works.
You.
It totally works for me. I just got used to, everybody says you have to write it down, you have to make it very structured, and honestly, that actually causes me more stress than just doing it.
You're a little more freeform, a little more flow.
Yeah. Whatever's directly in front of me and I can see a little bit further down the road, but whatever I can kind of get my hands on now, which drives other people crazy, but...
Okay. Hey, if it works, it works.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about other forms of visioning? Like some people do meditation or some kind of dream board or that kind of thing. Into that? I
do a lot of meditation. I should probably do more, but I think that's true for everyone in our culture. So I do a lot of meditation. I actually am really good at coffee dates with friends and just bouncing ideas off of people. I'm a process when I speak sort of person. So I'll sit down with somebody who I know kind of understands where I'm coming from and where I want to go, and we'll just kind of dialogue it back and forth until it makes good sense, and then I can keep some stuff in my head and get rid of the stuff that doesn't seem to make any sense.
Yeah.
So that works out pretty well too.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I find stuff that I didn't know I wanted to do. That happens. Yeah.
Hey, which brings us to our next question, right?
Yeah.
Opportunity. Do you seek out opportunity? Do you create opportunity, and in what ways?
So I actually seek out and create opportunities. It depends on sort of what we're talking about. So as far as my practice goes, I seek out opportunities actually by actively engaging with people in my patient demographic that I want to work with. So I have been doing panels at conventions, and I definitely am on every Facebook board known to man for every convention in the city, which there are quite a few. In fact, I just went to a board game party this weekend and met 5 people, one of which is a personal trainer who works with the same demographic, and we're talking about doing some blogs and that type of thing. So I definitely go looking for it. But I'm also creating it right now. I'm setting up a conference that's supposed to happen at the beginning of next year in January to bring together patients around health and body image, but also help bring together other providers so that we can build a bigger network in the city that doesn't really exist in a truly cohesive fashion at the moment. And once we can build that, then it makes referrals easier and interactions and networking faster and better. So,
great.
Yeah.
Great. So what's your philosophy of opportunity?
It's everywhere. You just have to be paying attention. Honestly, it's everywhere. You really just have to look at it. And I think everything can be an opportunity. It's all about just looking at it. I'm also not the first person to just see something. I'm really bad. I don't normally go for the pretty opportunity, the one that's like wreathed in bright lights, because that's usually where everybody's going. So I kind of find the one that's like 2 doors down and maybe has like, a street lamp. That's the one I usually go for. So yeah.
Interesting. So tell me more about that. The opportunities you go for are not the obvious ones.
Not normally. I find that they almost never, for me personally, pan out. That's not to say that they don't for other people, but they almost never pan out for me. It's like, it's not that it's too good to be true. It's just, it doesn't actually really end up aligning with who I am and what I want to do. And if I go and I put a little bit more effort into it and I look a little bit deeper, it actually better aligns with where I'm headed and who I am and how I like to work. Plus there's fewer people over here in the unlooked for portion than the big, bright, obvious direction.
Very wise.
So, and we can't all do the same thing in the same way. We just can't. So.
So let's do things our own way.
Right, darn it! That's the best way, I think. But yes, it's true.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you succeeded in every goal you've ever set?
Oh, hell no. Succeeded at every goal I've ever set. That would be awesome. I don't think that's actually possible.
Yeah.
I really don't think that's actually possible.
Okay, so what have you learned from the times that you've failed?
Honestly, most of the times I've failed have been not because I wasn't realistic with myself about what I could and couldn't do. So a lot of my failures personally come from just overcommitting and over accepting, and then looking back on it and realizing I'm in over my eyeballs and I can't possibly get out, and so I'm not going to be able to hit the marker of the goal that I want. And I found that actually scaling back is actually super helpful. And so I now have lots of little goals and only a few big ones, and all the few big ones have all the little steps ahead of time so that I don't get too far in over my head. So
that's good. And I like how you do in over my head.
It's true.
It's almost like little steps.
It's true. It's very, very true. Yes.
Okay, that's cool. So when you have in the past hit your challenges or your failures, what mental strategies do you use to push through that, to move forward? Because when people hit failure, sometimes they just stop.
Well, I think it depends on kind of how everything else is going. And I'll totally own, I probably stop and wallow in it for about 24 hours, sometimes 48. And just really own it, feel disappointed, do the whole process. And then actually usually just look at it from a different direction. Because if I fail, there's a reason. I'm kind of logical in that respect. There's usually a reason. So if I can figure it out, great. I fix it and keep moving. If I can't, then I just actually usually kind of rearrange the goal a little bit to better be accomplished with whatever I'm doing. Because we're all human. We all have limitations, and sometimes you don't know them until you've tried something and it didn't work.
Very true. Yeah. Very true. You're so full of wisdom and goodness. Jeez, I love it. Okay. So you talked a little bit about sort of getting resistance from, I'm going to guess, the medical community.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what about parents, peers, people like that? When you get resistance from parents and peers,
mm-hmm.
how do you process that to follow your own heart?
Oh goodness. Parents and peers, those are the tricky ones. Those are never the easy ones. I got blessed with an amazing mother, so I almost never run into negative resistance from my mother. So I would say that's actually super helpful in how I process everything else. I've been through some stuff in my past. There's been quite a bit as I was growing up, and we made it through it, and my mom's always pretty much just been really awesome and supportive in that way, so I don't really encounter it there. The biggest resistance I ever encounter is from my peers. It is, definitely. And it's, you would assume that it would be more the naturopathic medical community, but it really isn't. While I love my geeky peeps, and they're amazing, the reality is that they're also very, very attached to their science. And they have very distinct ideas about what that means and very distinct ideas about how that looks. And so I just have to I do a ton of educating all the time. And then there's literally just a point where I'm like, you have your opinion, I have mine. I'm not going to change your mind today. We will agree to disagree. And we just, those are the people I don't actively, talk about some of that nerdy portion of my life. But then we can go ahead and talk about this convention we're both going to and the costumes we're wearing, and that's totally fine. And that's usually how I do it, is I kind of just put the education out on the table, let them see where I'm coming from. They can either agree or disagree. If we can have a meaningful debate, we do. If we can't, then we just agree to disagree and we focus and work on other things. So I do have friends who are amazing and wonderful people, but I don't work with them in my medical sphere, and I do other, hobby type stuff with them instead, and that seems to work better.
So, thank you. So that answer seemed to be the external experience. This is, how you deal with them.
Yeah.
What about the internal experience?
I'm an incredibly stubborn person. It's really hard to shake, my idea of what I think I'm doing well. So it's really, really hard for me to get too shaken up about all of that. It's not life or death. And so if it's not life or death, I don't usually get that emotionally concerned about it. It's hard to kind of change my momentum, as it were, because it's just not life or death. Yeah. Having been in life or death situations, it's not life or death. So, okay, you don't agree with me. Ouch. Okay, we're going to keep on going.
If you don't like my Doctor Who posters in the waiting room...
That's okay, you can go somewhere else. And this is the funny thing about how I feel about medicine and when I did massage and all of those things. There's a place for everyone, but that place doesn't have to be me. And that's okay. And that's not about me, and it's not about you. It's just, there's a place for everyone, and it doesn't always have to be me. And I think that actually helps a ton, because most of the time, you resisting me, like a peer resisting what I'm saying, doesn't really ever have anything to do with me. So why take it so internally? So I don't.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is about mentors or secret teachers. So we've all had the teachers at school, mm-hmm. and maybe a friend of the family or something like that. But I want to know about your secret teachers. I want to know about the mentors that came out of the woodwork, the stranger that passed by, the
Right.
gamer who, you know, I don't know what.
Oh, goodness. She doesn't know this, and I haven't told her this, and if she ever hears this, she'll probably freak out. But one of my secret teachers is actually a massage therapist. I did her maternity leave for her a few years ago, and she was just this amazing, down-to-earth person. She did acupuncture and she did massage, and she was just this amazing, mellow person, and has done a lot of like stressful changes and transitions, and just watching her through that process and how she managed being a business owner and seeing patients and having a kid and all of those things. Those are a lot of really big things to manage, and she did it with really, really amazing grace and was very human about it. And I think actually that was really powerful, because it was like, oh yeah, no, you can actually do all of that. It doesn't always look perfect, but you can do all of that without losing your mind, without falling over. You can actually do every single one of those things. And that was actually super powerful. So, especially at a time where I was busy trying to put the practice thing together and figure out sort of where I was going next, to see that you could kind of have it all was really helpful. So she's one of them. She doesn't know that, but she's one of them. And then, this is going to be so cheesy, but I have an ex-partner who's been in my life for, oh goodness, over a decade now. Probably closer to, oh goodness, almost 20 years now. Had to do that math. That was crazy. And it's not always been awesome, but he was just very good at giving me the space to mess up and not hating me for it. And there aren't very many places or spaces in this world where you can do that, where somebody doesn't hold it against you forever and ever. And he was able to do that, and he still is able to do that. And so that was actually one of the best things ever. He was like, yeah, you can continue to get up and keep on going, and I won't hate you, and I won't be mad at you, and we fail, and that's what happens. And that was pretty amazing. And so I still every once in a while use that interaction in that way, but you know, 20 years of being able to fall down and get back up and not have anybody point and laugh or any of those things is really pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
So, you're a doctor, you got the healing bit going on, but you're also creative.
Mm-hmm.
How do those two pieces sort of cross over?
Way more often than you would imagine. So being a doctor, actually, so I'm teaching myself how to paint watercolors, because I obviously need more things to do in my day. It's helped me understand, because of what I know about medicine and the body. I'm like, oh yeah, that I can apply that to how I do art. But I did dance for a really long time, and I used to do choir, and all of those things, and there's just an awesome like ability to kind of wait for it and hold space for it that translates really well to being a doctor. I don't need the answer right now. I'm not looking. It's not that I'm not looking, or that I'm not waiting for it, or that I'm not aware that it's coming, but I don't need it right this minute. And dance and choir definitely taught me that there's definitely points where you have to stop, or you have to slow down, or you have to breathe. And that was actually really huge, and I use that all the time with people, to just let them and their bodies figure out what's going on long enough that we can kind of come back at it. So I actually find that that's probably more useful than a lot of other things I've learned over my life. So, you know, and then there's just the practical aspects of being able to do graphic art and those types of things, and I can do my own marketing and all of that stuff too, but yeah.
Great. So in what ways is art healing?
All of the ways. Okay, sorry, that was glib. Art's healing. So we've already done the studies in that show, like looking at beautiful things improves your mood, improves your overall demeanor, improves how you handle trauma. And that's just looking at beautiful things. Making things helps you process. It helps you look at things from a new perspective. It actually, depending on what kind of art you're making, will allow you to move your body in ways you've never done before. And all of those are incredibly healing and big parts of medicine, because bodies are not just bodies. People are whole people. And being able to process whatever you're going through via some format, whether that's movement or spoken word or writing or painting, is actually way, way healthier than bottling it all up and letting it become this huge problem. And, you know, dancing and playing are incredibly powerful for our mental development and our physical development. So they're actually ridiculously intertwined. Whether people always want to own that or not is different, but they're pretty intertwined. Yeah.
Intertwined.
They are, incredibly. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So, as you move through your doctoring, your creativity, your other interests, do you ever have doubts about what you're doing and your value or talent as a person, a doctor, an artist? And what do you do with that?
Doubts is all of the things. Yes, those do come up. I don't know anyone that they don't. And what do I do about those? You know, it depends on the day, but I try really hard to be present with my patients at that time, or with whoever I'm interacting with. And I find that's actually really helpful for doubts, because if I take me out of the equation in terms of what's going on in my head as an ego process, for lack of a better explanation, and I just sit with the moment and the patient, it's amazing what happens. And so I definitely do that. I do go outside and I take a walk sometimes, to remember how very small I am and how very big I am, because both of those things show up. And then there are times when you gotta sit down and own it and write it down and figure out why. And there are days when that's what happens. I also find I'm very gentle with myself when I start to feel that way, and I start to carefully and meticulously curate what media I'm taking in and who I'm spending time with and how often I sleep and all of those things too. So,
good.
Yeah.
So, you get out of med school.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God.
Yes. Yes.
And, you know, I don't really know what the career path is, but I would assume you either sort of get in with a clinic or a bunch of doctors, or you forge your own path.
Mm-hmm.
Why do it your way? It sounds a lot harder to me.
Why do it my way? Well, it is harder. Remember that stubborn piece earlier? There's some of that. The other part of that is that having been a patient in our conventional medical paradigm, and I realize that naturopathic doctors and naturopathic clinics are often different, and I'm not saying that they aren't, but having been part of the conventional medical paradigm as a patient, I got really tired of not being heard, and I got really tired of not feeling welcome where I was going. That my doctors and my providers were seeing me, but it was because they were required to see me, not because it was an enjoyable experience to see me. And trust me, I did try and work in a clinic with some other doctors, and we just didn't see eye to eye on how we wanted to go about treatment, what we wanted to do about treatment, sort of what was the most important portion of working with patients. And the easiest way to get around all of that is to do it yourself, and have more control over that. So it's a lot more work to do all of the business back end, and I'm not saying it isn't, but it's actually a lot more rewarding, I find, for me personally, to be able to kind of give more control and room for those things that I feel like are important that I don't necessarily see in clinics that are run by other people, because they just have different ideas about what's important and where they need to make the space. So
Great.
Yeah.
Good call.
Works out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, last one here. Why do you do this? Why do you do what you do? Why are you a doctor? Why do you do it this way? And what do you get from doing this?
Oh, goodness. Why do I do it this way? What do I get from it? I do it this way because I feel like it's the right way to do it. The feedback I'm getting from patients and from other people who aren't my patients but I interact with in the community is that this is needed. It's a hole. There's definitely a space that needed to be filled, and people that needed to be seen. What I get out of it, well, it's fun. I mean, it's a pain in the rear sometimes, but it's fun. And helping people, it's always made me happy. It's one of those things that's always kind of been awesome for me. So being able to help people to a greater extent and give them the opportunity to feel the best they've felt in their entire life, whatever that looks like, is pretty amazing. And just spreading the love. There's a lot of that too. I think that's really useful because in the end, I mean, that's all that's really important, is that we all feel cared for and heard and respected. And I feel like doing it this way is the best way that I can do that for the people that I feel like aren't getting that. So,
Dr. Virginia, you are amazing.
Aw.
Thank you.
Thank you.